Launching a book can be a scary and daunting task. So is launching a new business. Imagine doing both. Imagine relocating countries as part of that process. But this is just another exciting challenge for Julie Broad. From managing tenant housing and real estate investing to best-selling author on Amazon, all these different iterations of her career have directly contributed to getting her where she is today. Starting her small business as part of her visa application, Julie bet it all, not just on the business, but on herself. Going against the grain and against the odds, Julie put everything on the line. Switching from investing in real estate to now investing in herself and others, Julie's company, Book Launchers, has catapulted onto the publishing scene. Taking the best of both worlds, Book Launchers provides the support and marketing of a traditional publisher, while still allowing for retained ownership in the copyrights of self-publishing. This new model has found quick success in a slowly evolving industry. With some incredibly talented authors in tow, Julie and her team are launching the book publishing world in a whole new direction. Disrupting an industry like Airbnb and Warby Parker, part of Book Launcher's success is the result of traditional publishers failing to adapt and change. Julie found that out when she tried to publish her first book. But figuring out the process, and more importantly, finding great books to publish, it's easy to see why she has experienced so much success. Find out how she did it, the future of books, and launching a business in my conversation with Julie Broad. Is it like a veggie burger?
It's a veggie burger, yeah. It was a little strange. It looks just like beef. You almost want to say, like, did you just try to feed me cow?
Are you vegan? Are you vegetarian?
I'm vegetarian.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is an unopened bottle of water if you
I've got water.
need it. Okay.
Just in case?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'd like to. Well, and quite frankly, I brought it for me, not for you, because I'm just so parched. Yeah, good call not using the plastic. I should be ashamed of myself.
No, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Well, I drove down here, so I really don't have an excuse, and I've got a metal cup in the car. I just blew it. So no good excuse.
You didn't have to tell me that.
Yeah, right. Jerk face.
You'd be like, I had one, I forgot that I lost it, whatever. Okay.
This is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is Julie Broad.
Hey.
How's it going?
Oh, it's been a fantastic time hanging out with you.
Where are we and what are we doing?
We are at Podfest in somewhere in Florida. I forgot the city.
Some giant megaplex in the middle of Disney/Marriott
That's right.
Orlando. Yeah, the convention mecca. What we were just talking about, I think I've put in about 10 miles between where I have to park versus where we have all of our stuff going on. But hey, thanks for taking the time. We're going to try to cram a lot of stuff into a really short amount of time because you got a flight to catch, and I'm really grateful that you were able to squeeze us in. So let's talk about just real briefly, because you've given this speech about 8,000 times over the last 48 hours, but let's talk a little bit about what it is that you do in your company and how you got there.
Yeah, you bet. So my company is Book Launchers, and we help people write, publish, and sell nonfiction books. And really, we're a professional self-publishing team. So you keep all rights and royalties, but we're creating a book that is as good or better than a traditionally published book.
And that's actually kind of like how we connected through Sarah, but in that same vein, like what I thought was so neat about what you guys do is like you're the best of both worlds. You're the best of all the self-publishing aspects, but you also bring to the table some of the benefits of that traditional publishing arena.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most self-publishers, they dream of having their book in a bookstore and things like that, but they don't actually know how to go about it. And, it actually doesn't sell that many books, but it feels great as an author to go into a bookstore and find your book. So we do all those kind of things, and we really try to provide marketing support, which even traditional publishers don't provide. And by marketing support, it's not an Amazon gimmick. It's really how we're getting books into readers' hands.
Yeah. Well, and what the other thing that I thought was really neat about your concept in particular, different from a lot of the rest, is that it's for what you need. You provide everything. I mean, you can do everything from ghostwrite to all the marketing to everything else through the whole process, or you can do as little as what is needed. And I love the fact that as an aspiring author, I can just not pick and choose, but I can use you for what I'm really struggling with. and you really cater to all different aspects.
Yeah, I mean, most people, because we're going to be doing marketing at the end, we have to limit where people come to us because we do have to ensure a level of quality with the book.
Right, you need to get in there as early as possible,
but
ideally.
Because we're set up as a membership base, if you are, say, a brilliant graphic designer and you're going to do your own cover, we can just skip that. If you've already written the book and you just need editing help, we can skip the fact that you could have worked with a writer or a writing coach.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. It's so cool. And it's like month to month, a subscription-based concept. That's a really great... there's so many positive benefits to that I really like. So how did that all start with you? Like, where did that...
Life is a winding journey, and I think I ultimately have ended up exactly where I needed to be. But my background is actually in real estate. I was a real estate investor. I started investing in 2001. So I wrote a real estate investing book, and I self-published it because after a long back and forth with Wiley, they rejected me, saying that I didn't have a strong enough platform to sell books. And I looked at this and I was really upset, not just because I was rejected, but I had 2 friends who actually got a book deal with Wiley right around the same time who had no platform. Wow. And I did have a platform. So I was injured by this.
Yeah, so what do you think that was all about? That's kind of weird.
I actually...
Is it more about a popularity contest?
There's more to it than that. There was a bigger company that was kind of endorsing the 2 of them that didn't endorse me because we were kind of competitors.
I understand.
Yeah, there's more to it. But ultimately, when my ego recovered, I decided I'm going to self-publish this, but I'm going to do the book that I know needs to be written, which wasn't the one Wiley thought would sell. And I also am going to do this better than if Wiley did it. And I did. I dove into it.
You're going to challenge me. I'll show you.
Yeah, I really did. I went into it with vengeance. It was one part, I really want to write a book that's going to serve this audience. And one part, I'm going to kick your ass, Wiley.
Yeah, let me show you well, that's a great motivator, right? I mean, that's something that really pushes you.
Yeah, and I dove into this, learned everything I could, and I actually took my book to #1 overall on Amazon. So ahead of Dan Brown. I had a Game of Thrones as a print book that was selling, I think, for $19. Dang. So I sold thousands and thousands of copies in a week period to get to #1. And it stayed in the top 100 for 45 days.
Outstanding.
So,
That's
yes.
amazing.
So I did better than any real estate book. This was in Canada. I live in LA now, but I am Canadian. And
which is a neat story. We don't have time to go into.
Yeah,
That's a really great story that we got to hear as your keynote speech. Yeah, that was such a cool thing. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. So that was kind of the start of this. That's not exactly. I didn't go from that into publishing other people's books, but through that I learned.
It was a winding path to
I really learned the gaps in the self-publishing market. I really got to know what the traditional publishers were and weren't doing.
There's some real gaps there.
Yeah, and so it really opened my eyes, and I started helping friends that had book deals and that didn't, with their books, and it just got further and further. So as the winding path led us to move to the States, and I wound down what I was doing in Canada, I just dove into this. And because I was applying for a visa, I had to research everything intensely because I was going to be interviewed to determine whether this business was viable or even worthy of being in the U.S. So I had to go at this in a much deeper way than I think a lot of people would have, which is how I came up with the membership model.
It really served you well, like having to take that. That was one of the things I did want to bring up was the fact that you decided to create this business crossing borders, which created a whole nother level of bureaucratic stuff, quite frankly, to get through. And it seems like with every small business owner I talk to, that bureaucracy and government, I don't want to say interference because some of it's necessary, but all of that you have to deal with is the hardest part of business. And for you, having to do that from one country to the next makes it even tougher, which, like I said, I think that really contributed to your success in the long run. It probably made you miserable at the time, but
it still does. Yeah. I actually, we're not really going into this story, but even crossing the border last year, I was held up and they weren't going to give me more than 7 days in the U.S., which is where my home is.
Right.
And I'm on a 5-year visa, but they wanted to see financials. They wanted proof that I was employing people, which is what my visa entails. And I was not expecting to have to do any of that until I renewed the visa. So yeah, it's always kind of hanging over my head, which also makes me push even harder because this is how I'm in the country. This is how I can stay at my home.
Yeah, there's a lot at risk, right?
There is a lot, and we had to put a lot into this, and so.
We talked a lot about some of the scary moments of going through some of that. When was your first, or did you have a kind of aha moment with this where you kind of was like, all right, this is going to work. This is the trick. Like, all right, now we're really kind of, or is it still kind of that?
Oh, no, I'm confident this is working. I mean, I did this backwards. This is how I would, if you asked me how to start a business, I would say do the opposite of what I had to do. Because in order to get into the country, I had to invest tens of thousands of dollars before I was allowed to even make sure I could get paying clients. I would never start a business that way. I would start, and I have started my previous businesses, get clients,
first,
then build the business, right? So
reverse order.
But it was very reassuring when I did launch as a beta, basically looking for some paying clients at a much reduced rate, and I got 10 in a very short period of time. So, and they were
That's
getting
gotta make you feel
it
good.
was a relief. They were getting their books subsidized, so they, smart people should have seen
taking
the
advantage too. Yeah, like where was I when that was going on?
But still, I was an unknown with a real estate
for
investing background. I'd only self-published 2 of my own books. It's not like I came from, so I needed the beta clients to prove it.
To have some proving ground.
But as soon as having those 10 beta clients made it real, and I was like, okay, this is great. And then hiring people to work for me, because that was part of the visa, I had to start with employees, and just the amount of interest and excitement over what I was offering. At that point, I was like, okay, I just have to stick to my plan, and this is going to work.
If I can just keep this going, then it's all going to work. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a great feeling to kind of know that. So is there a habit or a routine that you have that's maybe different from most people that has contributed to some of your success?
One thing that I do, and if I don't do it, everything feels wrong, is at the end of every day, I write down and plan my next day. And
beautiful.
If I don't do that,
no kidding,
things seem to fall apart.
So what does that look like? You have a journal at your bedside table kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I actually do it before I quit work.
Or do you do it electronically?
Yeah, no, I write it down, always handwritten.
Handwritten.
And there's something about not only writing it down to get it out of your brain. So, because, I mean, if you run a business, 4 a.m. is your enemy. Like 4 a.m. is when you wake up and you freak
those things are churning
out about everything.
I've had those moments of crisis myself.
I could tell by the look on your face. You were like, yes, I totally know 4 a.m. It is not my friend. So if you write it down, it's like physically taking it out of your brain, so you won't worry about it.
Nice.
You'll worry about something else.
Right. Pick a new thing, It'll shift to the family or something.
That's right. But it takes that out. So I think physically writing it down is really, really important. Plus the act of crossing it off also provides closure to your brain. So yes, I'm really big on writing it down. And I like to separate my work and my home life. So I really try to do that at the end of my work day, so that's like signifying, okay, you're done work now, you're going to spend time with family.
Beautiful. Yeah, it gives you that kind of shift. Mm-hmm. My dad had a similar routine, but it didn't involve writing. What he'd had is a giant tub of ice cream that was in the pantry that goes from the garage to the house, and so he would stop at that tub of ice cream with a spoon he had Velcroed into the freezer, hit that for a minute, decompress before he had to come deal with me, his obnoxious son, and all the chaos I had caused through the course of that day. But that's a whole another story. So what does an ideal everyday day look like for you?
Oh, that's a tough one.
If you could have your druthers.
I kind of, in a lot of ways, I live my ideal day now, because I've always built, and that's not to say there's always things that can be improved, but I think if your ideal day is every day, you'd be bored. Like, what are you striving for?
Right. You got to have that variation.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I get up in the morning, and ideally I go to CrossFit first thing, come back, hang out with my son, get him off to school, and then go to the office and work on the business and work with my team. I have an amazing team. That's how we met.
I was going to say, Sarah is an amazing person.
She is phenomenal. My whole team is like that. I've been very, very fortunate to, from day one, attract amazing people, and a lot of businesses that are starting up and growing as fast as we are, they see a lot of turnover.
Right. Well, it's hard to find good people.
Oh my goodness,
I have really struggled with that.
Yeah, but we don't have turnover. We have a great culture. We support each other. So that's really that's my ideal day. And then I can go home and have a great time with my family and do it all over again the next day.
So do you guys all work remotely?
Yes.
Nice.
Even the people, we're Los Angeles based, but even those folks that are in Los Angeles, why make them fight traffic?
Fight that
We
nightmare.
don't need to. We have Zoom meetings every day. And now, with this coronavirus thing, it's the smartest business model there is to have people remote working. So
yeah, it just seems more. There's so many benefits to that, and I love the idea that model and that concept is changing and evolving into more and more.
And then
of
you're
that.
not restricted by a city. I can hire the absolute best people I find, regardless of where they're located.
Especially in your line of work in particular. With editors. That's finding good quality guys and girls for that kind of thing is amazing. We talked about habits a bit. So what's something odd or weird or different about you that has contributed some of your success? I got to make sure I add that tagline because I've gotten some weird answers for that here lately.
Yeah.
That contributes to your success.
I think differently. I've always pursued things differently. Like just how I ended up down in this business. It's like I don't like the comfort zone. The comfort zone freaks me out. And so, we were living a very comfortable life before I flipped everything upside down and wound down my business and moved to the US. And I think ultimately everything I've done that I'm like, wow, I'm really proud of that has come because of this freakish nature I have to be like, I can't keep doing this. I'm too comfortable. And then flip my world upside down. So I think that's a little
so
odd.
Fun the same way. It's like that you get that 7 to 10 year time frame, like whether it be with career or even kind of with relationships too, to a certain extent. Like you start getting that itch and that twitch and kind of want to start doing something different and learning something new.
Exactly.
And I feel like I've gone through a couple of careers.
Yeah, no, I have.
Yeah, we have, right? We really have.
I really have. This is my third business. So no, I'm definitely a multi.
But it makes it fun, right? Because you're always learning, you're always growing. I think that's something that's common with people like yourself. It's that constantly wanting to evolve and grow and to improve and be that best self.
And the lessons that I've learned from everything else, that's why I say I am exactly where I was always meant to be, and everything that's happened before now has helped me grow a company, fairly quickly.
It's got you to where you are today, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have it any other way, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of learning, and I'm a book guy, so I've got a little bit of stuff about books, and you're the perfect person. So I'm gonna dive not too deep with you on it, but a couple of things about reading. Okay, so you personally, ebooks or
print or ebooks,
print books, or do you do audio? What's your preferred consumption?
I actually prefer print, but more and more I am just putting them on my Kindle on my phone, because then I've always got the book with me.
Right, because then you can have 20. And somebody like you needs to have 20 books.
Yeah,
you're dealing with at all
really
times,
hard
pretty much.
to read. That's the one thing with this business is I used to read probably 3 books a month.
For leisure,
for
fun.
And it wasn't even fiction.
For enjoyment,
I loved nonfiction books.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah.
And I would throw in fiction every once in a while, but I really love nonfiction books. But reading so many other people's books and spending so much time thinking about books, I actually have trouble reading now. So I need to have it on my phone so that if I have downtime, I find myself on my phone just looking for something to do, I can just open a book.
Yeah. Well, and it's tricky because even I talk about it with musicians. Once you have that cultured ear and then you start to pick it apart, a song or whatever, then it's hard to turn that off. With you, you're kind of probably in that constant edit mode, that constant revision.
Looking for ideas,
looking for ideas. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's hard to just turn that off and just read for enjoyment to relax kind of thing. That's a difficult struggle. So do you do audiobooks at all, or are you strictly a reader?
With audiobooks, it cut down my podcast time, and I really like to listen to podcasts.
So that's what your audio time is spent.
So I have a few audiobooks, but I actually never finish them. I lose patience. I'm a fast reader. And I don't like listening to chipmunks. So I can't get the audiobook to go fast enough with comfort.
Yeah, I was just at 1.5 is okay for me. Once you go past 1.5, it gets annoying.
No. So I can read faster than I can listen. And then the other thing with listening is that you can't take notes very easily. And there's always things that I want to remember and reference later, which I love with the Kindle app, as I can highlight it and then email it to myself.
Nice.
So
beautiful. Now, when you're not doing the Kindle, when you're taking those notes, are you writing directly in the book, or are you?
No, I never. That's just no. Don't damage the book.
What?
I never write in the book.
All right, so I'm a big fan of Ryan Holiday, and one of his things is, and he's a very you obviously know Ryan
he's
Holiday.
read. He has great
but
reading
one of
list.
his things is. The biggest compliment you can give to a writer is to write in the book, to write in the notes, and to write in the side margins.
Everybody's got a different opinion about that, but I feel like because then you can't pass it on to other people.
True.
You can't share the book. It now becomes your book. That how many more times are you ever going to look at it?
That's a great point.
So that's me, and that's kind of it's like, oh no, don't write in the book, but yeah.
Well, that's a great concept, because what I have started doing is forwarding on, every time I do finish a book, I think, all right, who does this apply to best, and try to send it to that person. That's been a big thing for me here this past year. So what are the podcasts that you're listening to the most?
Oh, so a lot of your audience probably wouldn't care about them, but I listen to the Sell More Books show.
No, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, I want to get what you like.
Yeah.
And what is it that appeals to you about these shows that keeps you coming back?
Yeah, so the Sell More Books show has a news segment where they cover everything in publishing. Every week they cover the top 5 news stories in publishing. So sometimes they catch stuff that I missed, so I like to stay on top of it that way. They also put tips in there. The tips aren't so exciting for me.
Right. Well, because you kind of know those.
Yeah, there's not too often.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard for them to come up with new tips every week, so they kind of repeat. But the news section is really, really cool. I listen almost every week. Joanna Penn, who is an author in the UK, she has a really cool podcast. She does an interview, and some weeks it's not for me, but other weeks she covers really fascinating, like legal things for authors, all that kind of stuff. And then the James Altucher show is like one of my go-to.
He's awesome.
I love his
Smart
interview style is just, he asks questions that you're actually thinking. Like as you're listening, you're like, oh, but what does that mean? Like, well, give me an example. And he'll actually say it, and he interrupts them too. It's my favorite thing. He's like, I'm going to interrupt you. I need to see.
It's the biggest thing I struggle with, man.
So I love his podcast, and then I pick and choose Pat Flynn's, but those are kind of the main ones, and then I'll listen. Like, I listened to part of one of yours, and before we talked today, and I'll listen. If we would have had more time, I would have listened to more.
Well, and I was going to bring that up too. Like, you go to these conferences, and you're meeting so many people, and you're having so many opportunities to. It's like, good grief, dude! I just got a stack. I'm like a week deep in podcasts before I even scratch the surface. It's really tough to deal with. We talked about podcasts. We talked about some books that you're into. What about, given your line of work, apps? I mean, I'm so old school. I'm still thinking of Microsoft Word,
Yeah, that's all I recommend for writing a book in.
Do you have anything besides that you recommend? Like, what about like Evernote or any of those kind of products? Anything that you recommend for doing that?
If somebody already uses it, already loves it, great, go ahead and use it. But it's like Scrivener is one of the most popular kind of book writing software. Scrivener, but I hate it.
Really?
But some people swear by it, and so if you love software and you're really into like Evernote, you'll probably like Scrivener. But the thing is, like, you can spend 5 days learning it. That could have been 5 days where your book could be almost written.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just sit down and get the words on paper. Whatever's going to do that for you, do it.
Yeah. It's funny because there's all these tools and technology, but like the hardest part is just sitting down and writing. And so what advice do you have to me and others like me that are trying to write or that are writing? I've made a choice. I'm not going to say trying. I'm writing.
Yes.
And I'm writing consistently. What advice do you have for people like us trying to get that process started and continue down that way?
Usually when I meet people who are trying, right?
Quote unquote.
They are lacking clarity, and the clarity can be lacking either around the overall book concept, or they haven't tied their book to the impact that they want to have. And the impact, the clearer you are. So this is the thing. A lot of people focus inwardly when it comes to books. They're like, I want to be a bestseller. I want to be the known expert. I want to. And I get it. Like, that's all the marketing. And, even if you watch my stuff, I talk about that a little bit. But when you do that, you allow your evil monsters that you try to keep in your closet. My biggest one is fear of judgment. We all have various monsters, imposter syndrome, fear of failure, fear of success, pick your monster. But when you make it about you, that monster can be really, really big and really, really invasive, and that slows you down tremendously.
Ego getting in the way.
When you turn it around and go, my book needs to impact somebody, right? So I'll use my first book as an example. So my ego was badly damaged with that whole scenario.
That experience, sure.
But in my heart, I knew that it was a real estate investing book. I knew that there were a lot of real estate investors or people who were thinking of real estate investing that had gone through or that were about to go through what I had gone through in terms of learning that it's passive income, that you just need to know the numbers and all these kind of things. And I ended up owning a crack house. I had a property manager charged with manslaughter because he punched a tenant, and the tenant later died in hospital because it was that kind of a neighborhood.
Right.
And that was by following the advice that was on the market. I ended up buying other people's problem properties and having a whole bunch of problems that I was not equipped to solve. So I knew that this message was needed. A, so you knew you weren't alone, but B, so you could make better decisions and avoid a lot of these horrible things.
So that doesn't happen to other people, sure. Yeah.
So for me, the book flowed so much easier when I stopped thinking about me and I started thinking about all those other people that were facing similar situations to what I had faced, worse or less worse.
Yeah, hopefully less, not quite as bad, but yeah.
But it was happening, and I was meeting people, and I finally met this one couple who, they almost lost everything over following some of the advice of putting down payments on credit cards and all this kind of stuff.
All that bad advice.
And it's still out there.
Yeah.
So if you turn your focus outward to having an impact and focus creating your book to have that impact, I find that you're kind of clearing the obstacles and those monsters get smaller, and it just goes so much faster. So.
Yeah. And that goes back to that old saying, it's like the quickest way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want. And in the process of doing that, it's remarkable how that always comes full circle. But when you are focused on yourself, it never comes. It's very, very slow to. So that's a lot of really good advice. What's one piece of bad advice that you hear in your industry, or something that you'd like to dispel?
Well, I mean, I've kind of touched on it, is focusing on bestseller.
Yeah.
Is really, like, again, why do you want to be a bestseller? What do you think that's going to do for you? And especially all these companies out now are like guaranteed Amazon bestseller, which actually ruins your algorithms on Amazon. I've seen people that, real estate investing book, that's my world.
Right.
He did this gimmick thing, and he ended up with a book that now Amazon it's not selling on Amazon, because when you go to see the also bots, Amazon make recommendations. It's a real estate investing book, and it's recommending to law of attraction, a cookbook, like a wedding type, how to get married, because the algorithm's all screwed up. And so now Amazon, if that's what's showing under his book, where do you think his book is showing?
Right,
Not
nowhere.
to people who want to buy real estate.
Nowhere.
So it messes it up. And the other thing is you're making other people, I love the guaranteed bestseller, and then you get the gimmick, they get the bestseller, and now you've just given that company another bestseller to brag about.
Right.
But you've sold 11 books.
To the web.
And it was 11 books to the wrong people who are never going to read your book or give you a good review. So I really think it's about that impact. Focus your goals on where are you going to find your readers, what do they need to hear from you, and how are you going to help them. And chances are you're going to get the Amazon bestseller sticker anyways, but you're going to have an impact and probably get to bigger and cooler places with your book that way.
And you're having to doing it the right way, and it's organic, all those things. Man, I keep saying those little things matter like that, and it's so true.
Little things done repeatedly add up to massive, massive momentum.
That's great. I love that. Love that. So you've kind of established a pretty good system for what I think is going to be the future of publishing. But is there anything else that you think, without giving out any trade secrets or anything you've got planned in the future, what do you think this industry is going to look like 10 years from now? What do you think the future holds?
I think, and we're already working on it, I think there's a greater connection to the screen. So, I really see the connection already with turning books into movies, turning books into TV series, but even, it's just almost organic. I could see a future where your book is almost almost like Harry Potter, right? You open up the newspaper and it's live happening right there with the words, right? You can kind of see that. But also the payment system around books. Blockchain provides a really cool opportunity for micropayments. And so, you can start paying the author directly, and, you get a little piece for referring me and, kind of referring my book. And with that, you can have micropayments.
Again, kind of building a community.
So we can detach ourselves a little bit from Amazon, which is good. Amazon's been great for indie authors, and at the same token, they yield almost all the power. Whenever somebody has that much power and control, it's always uncomfortable. But I think the future could be very interesting with blockchain. I
never even thought about that. Yeah. That's really cool. That kind of goes on the same vein with the podcasting, because you think about that with the monetization and how they can do that with the Patreon and some of the different concepts that are out there now. That's amazing. You're in contact with a ton of amazing authors, and I just went through the stack of books that you guys have come out with this past year. So this is going to be an easy question for you, given this show and what we kind of focus on. Who do you think would be an ideal guest for us to have on?
I mean, we have so many amazing people, and it's hard.
Pick and choose, right? I'll put you on the spot.
There's two that jump to my mind right away. One is Alison Robertson, who wrote Enoughness. I don't know if you saw that one. She had the red.
I did.
The red shirt, and then also Mean People Suck, Michael Brenner. They kind of jump out at me as fitting both. Alison Robertson has this one really cool concept of kind of taking the music piece that we were touching on. As what do you call it, switchboard? It's not a switchboard.
Oh, yeah, the mixing board.
Mixing board, thank you. It's been a long...
Oh, hey, I'm with you.
The words aren't forming quite as good as they usually do. So, she's like, life, it's not about balancing. It's about looking at it like that mixing board and being like, sometimes you have to shove the levers all the way up on one piece, and then you adjust them back down and you shove the levers up. So I really, life is like that. I am all on working right now, and as soon as I go home, I'm actually going to work for 2 more days, and then I'm taking a week of holiday. So then it's the business levers go down, and then the family goes full on. And I think you have to look at it that way, because balance makes you feel always out of balance because you're never really, when are you ever really balanced? You're not.
No.
So.
Well, and that kind of goes back to that ideal everyday thing. Like what I've noticed is you need to have some of those really stressful times to appreciate the relaxing times. And as long as you can continue to separate the two and be present at whichever one that you're in. Like, it's good to be stressed out about work and work really hard to accomplish a goal, but then it's also good to be able to shut that down and go play with the kids in the sand and, and go do your vacation and have your down. That's really, and being present with both of those. What's really unhealthy is when you're at work and all you're thinking about is that vacation. When you're at vacation, all you're thinking about is that job, and trying to keep that presence of mind is huge. Night owl or early bird?
Oh, I'm an early bird.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
Well, and once we have kids too, it makes it tough.
It's really hard, but it's also, even when I was in university and people would do all-nighters, it's like my brain starts to decline at like 9 o'clock at night.
Same way. I get dumber and dumber the closer to midnight we get.
I was really useless. I was never that late night crammer. So yeah, I'm definitely, I don't love being up early in the morning, but I'm definitely more functional in the morning.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so here's a kind of a fun one that I've been asking everyone. I stole this one from Tim Ferriss. What's your favorite item under $100 that you could not live without, that you use like on an everyday basis kind of
thing? Right now, hand sanitizer.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't count because everybody's bought that stuff up to the hill.
That's the funny part is
has that always been the thing?
I was always that, because I used to travel a lot for a job I had, and I got sick after every trip.
No kidding.
And so I was that freak sanitizing my seat and, always. And so now I'm normal. So this is awesome.
So now you're right in your comfort zone.
Now I'm normal, and it's cool.
But
no,
I got some hand sanitizer for you.
I
mean, if that's your legit answer, then I can live with that. That's cool.
Really,
if that's a long-term thing.
My headphones would be secondary to that. Yeah. I think they were under $100. I mean, my AirPods weren't under $100, but my headphones. We'll say headphones because those were under $100.
Which headphones do you use? Not the AirPods.
I have the Beats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you can get Beats for under $100, can you?
They were the little. They were under $100.
Just the little plug-ins.
Yeah. Then nobody talks to me. Leave me alone on the plane.
Zone out. That's great. Awesome. I always ask people if they have a favorite fail, or an experience that was a tough lesson that you learned a lot from. I call them my favorite failures because I have so many of them.
Yeah, I have tons.
Any one particular that stands out?
The entire journey of our early days of real estate investing, because that led me to where I am today. And the crack house was probably the favorite fail. The only deal that we've lost money on, and it's where the property manager ended up getting charged with manslaughter on that property. We ended up having to go to court with fire code violations. And I say I started investing, and then I convinced my boyfriend at the time to invest with me, and then we eventually got married. So, any mistakes he made were mine, and vice versa.
We're all in it together at this point.
Yes, exactly. Which is probably for the better, because by the time we got married, I think we had 12 properties together, so that would have been a nightmare to sort out.
Now you're stuck with each other. That divorce would be a nightmare.
Yeah, right?
It's more trouble than it's worth.
It's worse now.
Telling you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Anybody that made a lasting impact on you? Did you have any mentors early on along the way?
Nobody does it on their own.
Oh, of course.
Everybody has
have
mentors. Help. I mean, the first kind of person I ever learned from, his pen name was Michael Masterson. His real name was Mark Ford. I learned a lot from his books, and then I went and took courses from his company called Early to Rise, and then I ended up actually writing for them and doing some partnerships and JV kind of affiliate arrangements.
Was that kind of your first introduction to writing for the most part? Or?
No, I was writing when I was a little kid. I was actually that nerd
always
who,
kind of had that.
I was that nerd who wrote stories, and I won essays. I wrote an essay about Alexander Graham Bell, and I won money for that as a little kid, like all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's great. So that was your calling, clearly.
Yeah, I went to business school because I was told writers don't make any money, so I did an undergrad in business and an MBA.
And that's what took you into real estate and all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, real estate was really intended as a backup plan. It was never intended to be the business it became for me.
Yeah, my undergrad's in real estate development too.
It's just, if you're young and you're listening to this, don't listen to people who tell you can't make money doing the thing you love. I believe you can make money doing anything now. And if you doubt it, I work in an office where there is a huge office of people who just play video games all day long. They are paid to play video games, and they get catered lunches, they get catered dinners, and they play video games. So there is a job for everything. You just have to pursue it and figure out a need and fill it.
Excellent. We've got time, but I mean, I'm feeling really good about everything we've covered, dude. Either I'm getting better at this, or you're just a really good, succinct interviewee, because we are on point.
Well, I have one last point that I know
Yes,
I can make.
please.
So, and this is coming from the book angle, but whenever you're having a bad day or a bad challenge, like something's really going wrong, just know that that is going to make an excellent chapter in your future book. And guaranteed that is going to be the gold that sets you apart. It maybe not that year. You know, sometimes these things take 3, 4, 5 years to be the gold that is in your life. But everything that was really crappy in my life that I've gone through has become the absolute rock solid foundation that allowed me to do things 10 times better and offer lessons that were, 10 times more valuable than if my life had been smooth sailing.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I like to call them my favorite failures, because they make for good stories.
Exactly.
Those experiences make for memorable moments. And I use the example of like a roller coaster versus a camping trip. Like you can take your kids and go do the roller coasters, and it's fun, and they have that adrenaline surge and everything else like that. And you take them camping, and they're complaining, and it's miserable, and they don't have fun. But wait 10 years.
Yep.
10 years from now, they're not going to remember a thing about that roller coaster, but they'll be able to tell you every detail about that camping trip. And
Yep.
It's funny how that kind of works out. So what's the story that you'd like to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for helping other people get their stories out there and have impact. I feel like I've lived a lot of great stories. And now really it's about me making sure I've raised a son that is kind. Like really, if there's one thing I want to achieve, it is to have my son grow up and be kind.
Excellent.
That's my main goal with that. So I want to be remembered for that. And then also helping other people get their story out, because I think, the books we've put out this year, we've covered male sexual abuse, empowering women. I'm just trying to think of all the things, not having to be mean in your work to get results. There's so many great messages, and helping people get that out, I think we can change a ton of lives for the better. So that's what I want to be remembered for.
It's what's so neat about your company, and what's so neat about so many of these people that are being successful, like Chris, who's put this event on. It's that concept of helping others, and concept of putting others first and helping them to reach their goals. And there's so much fulfillment in that. It really is something that's a lot more rewarding than just that buck in your pocket. And if you can
creating jobs that people love to come work at my company. When people say they love their job, that makes me so proud.
Yeah.
So much more than any dollar figure. Now, you have to be profitable in order to
Obviously,
sustain a business.
Right. We all got bills to pay.
Yeah, but it's, if I, creating a job that people love to go to and they're proud to go to, again, it's impacting others. And, now they're happier for their families. Like, it's a better life for them, and it flows out from there.
Okay, so be thinking about all the books I'll publish this year, because I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot and see how many of them we can plug at the very end of this. But before we do that, bucket list. What's one item on your bucket list that you'd like to get knocked out?
Yes, see, I'm that crazy person who, whenever I think I want to do something, I just go do it.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to Laos or Cambodia. I really want to go. And
well, that's going to be tough to do this year with all the travel restrictions.
Yeah.
So anything
and
this year you're going to try to knock out?
Yeah, with a 3-year-old. So nothing.
Oh, that adds to
really,
the equation too.
Running a new business with a baby who's now 3 and being in a different country, I've got enough adventure right now. I'm good.
Right? I've got to venture up to about here, right?
Yeah.
But all the adventure I can handle, for sure.
I'm going to try a bucket list of relaxing.
For sure. Thank you for spending your time with us today. And this weekend, like I said, I mean, your big presentation out front was really awesome. And it was so funny that I just walked into yours after having spent so much time with Sarah and getting so much good and valuable information from her. And she was just there, having fun. It wasn't like she was on the clock or anything, but hang on to that one. She's a keeper.
Yes,
for sure.
she is.
So now that we've covered everything, just real quick, people who want to find out more about your company, anybody if you want to plug any social media.
Yep.
And one last thing I always want to do is give everyone an opportunity to plug any charity.
Yeah, great. Well, I mean, booklaunchers.com is our website. That's the best place to find out information about us and about our authors. And then booklaunchers.tv is my YouTube channel. That's where I have a ton of fun, and I really
That's a great channel, by the way. I love it.
Thank you.
If you do anything, go check that out for sure.
And comment, and I really do. Like, I know I call them my YouTube besties, and I know who they are because I pay attention to who's commenting, who's supporting my channel. It is a really cool community. So whether you ever work with us or not, you can still connect with me on YouTube because that's where I pay attention.
And get a good giggle at the same time.
Yes, I have fun. There's a video coming out that I rapped. I'm not a rapper. It's all about metadata. I mean, how do you make metadata fun? So I was like, you got to learn metadata. So I did a rap. It's terrible. It's terrible, but it's funny.
But that's, you're putting yourself out there, man. I love it. That's so great.
So yeah, and as for charity, I'm not doing anything around the charity right now, but I was given some really good advice when I was starting the company because my intention was actually to give an X amount of profits away to charity. And a business mentor of mine said, everybody wants to give to begin with, but the smartest thing you can do is build your business so big that you have all the resources to do things that are really, really impactful. So,
the more success you have, the bigger impact you can make.
Yeah, so he basically said, focus on creating massive success with your company, and then you can do those things that he called them legacy projects, but, really taking that advice to heart, and I'm focusing on creating success for the company.
Who was that mentor that told you that?
Alex Sharfin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's good advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many of them can you list? Can you go through the list of everything you guys published this year?
This is where Sarah would crush me.
I was going to say, because Sarah was pretty much spot on. She was Johnny on the spot. She could mow them down.
She is so incredible, and she has a pitch for every one of them.
Yeah, well, that's what she's got her whole
and
spiel.
She'll go, on page 73, this is really fascinating, and she is unbelievable. This is why you have a team of people that are better at things than you.
I feel bad. I shouldn't have done this to you.
Let me,
Some of your authors are going to be like, you forgot me. I'm never going to talk to you again.
That's my fear, right? Is somebody's like, you didn't mention my book.
What about mine?
Yeah, so Mark Magna. Can I say their names, or do you want
that's
to title
fine. Yeah,
too?
that's good enough.
Mark Magna, Michael Brenner, Barney Spensela, Allison Robertson, William Hung.
American Idol.
Yeah, Rob
we got
Berger.
to hang out with him for a little bit.
He's a really sweet guy.
Such a sweet
guy. Todd Tressiter. Oh my goodness, this is hard.
Well, and especially after having gone through everything.
Scott McMillan.
You're never going to talk to me again after this. I know I should.
Ryan Berman. I'm like, oh goodness. I'm like, all these faces of, you forgot me.
Well, I'll be like,
Erica
we're out of time. We're going to have to cut it short. No, but in all seriousness, thank you for taking the time and for what you guys are doing. The whole concept is brilliant, and I just love it. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking more soon because I've really got to get some things knocked out this year. So, but yeah,
Fantastic.
Safe travels and
thank
good
you
luck with everything you guys have going on.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening. So, what'd you think? What did I miss? Was there a topic you wish we had covered? Was there an area of discussion you want to know more about? Or was the whole thing just too long? Please send us your questions and feedback on social media to @ExtraordinaryPodcast or check out our website, extraordinarypodcast.net. Subscribe there for all the latest episodes, blog posts, and more. And if you're tired of living the same old ordinary life, shoot me an email, nate@extraordinarypodcast.net, and I will send you your own customizable blueprint that will walk you through step by step how to create your own extraordinary life. And if you or someone you know already fits the profile, you can submit a request to be interviewed on the website as well. Finally, if you like what you heard or learned today, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and follow the Extraordinary Podcast on all your favorite platforms like YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. And if you feel inspired, show your support for the show by donating through Patreon. It is through this financial support that we are able to continue to bring to light ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Thank you for your support, and most of all, just being you. This is Nate G, and we'll see you next week.